then just to meet everybody so warm. And it means a lot because you don't have to be friends of the communities, because the one lens that we understand is that you guys might also be under scrutiny from, is it the right thing, is that how you say it, the right to the left wings, because Germany might not want to look into the past colonial crimes, and then you guys are like, no, we need to do better. So in that, there's the respect that we appreciate the work that you're doing, because it's not easy as well, being where you are and doing what you're doing. It's not just us, but all the other communities that were affected throughout the colonial time. So for that, you have our biggest respect and gratitude, because it's not easy. To maybe I want to go back a little bit, and because of some of the audiences that might have not been there, let me maybe explain a little bit about two things. The Ovahero people, and I will mostly speak of Ovahero people because it's easier to speak about the community that I know the most, so that I don't misquote or misrepresent one or two elements with the other tribes. But obviously, throughout human behavior, there's quite a lot with the Ovahero people and the Nama people because of the genocide. But I'm a Herero descendant, I'm a Herero survivor, and so 80% of the Ovahero people died with the genocide. Through the genocide era, that 4 years, but then that's just the genocide. Then there was, the slavery after that and all of this. So because of the survival space that the Ovahero had to go through, which I think you wanted to, which you touched on, exactly is it, what is, how you said it, the trauma is just specific trauma that we focus on. People tend to forget that even before 1904 happened, which was when the extermination order was given, for the extermination order to be given, we have to think, how long did it take Luther von Trotter to actually be told you need to go to Southwest Germany and actually go wipe out the Hereros, and how long did it take for him to come on the ship? Because that must have been like at least more than 2 years, we're thinking. So already there was that thing. So in the 2 years prior to that, what actually happened for, Germany to think that, no, these Herero people are in the numbers, maybe they're not correct, we need to make sure to wipe them. So it's not just 1904. It could have been 1900, 1880 something, right? So already there was war happening that wasn't as documented before the examination. And a facility, a safe space for them to feel that I want to now go for therapy, right? What is therapy? Because you were not allowed to share emotion. If we look at, especially with the movie Shark Island, what I appreciate about Shark Island, specifically the scenes of, or the conversations of touching on, women had to go and, the skulls, you scrape off the meat on the bone, and it could be your son or your husband. That is different, that is horrific, it's barbaric. All of this, and if we look at epigenetics, we look at how some of this trauma is passed down through DNA as well, right? Just like we look at, somebody becomes addicted because maybe it's in the family, and nature versus nurture. So Ovahero people never had the space to really learn about what is trauma. Is it okay to breathe and say, I'm scared, I don't know if I'm safe, or if somebody's actually a spy, and if whatever I share and be vulnerable, I'm gonna get killed because of that. And so when we didn't have the safe spaces, singing might have been those spaces. And one thing that I recently also learned was, and I'm sorry if I'm ranting on, I want to help make you understand to the question. When there's a funeral with the Ovahero people, right? So there's usually the church service, or not church service, depending on the family. But then there's where the women are sitting and consoling each other. Let's say I arrived today and people was there yesterday, I have to say my lineage. From which branch did I survive from? So I talk about my mom, my dad, my grandparents, and some of us are horrible because I don't remember all the names, because they recognize which lineage survived that you come from. It's still part of therapy. And there's a collective, and everybody's like, they still here, they still. So it's things I'm starting to really pay attention to now. But for women, that became like a solace ground, like, oh, you're one of us. I was just married off, but that's actually where I also come from. And then the family ties are strengthened. So in terms of that, that's how maybe group, community, healing element look like, but not on a professional stance. And I think when I speak on trauma, I speak on, what parenting looks like from a trauma-informed lens. Usually, the spaces I enter are male-dominated because you have the elders on, that are the head of the table, which are the fathers. And so I speak about what is it to parent a boy child? What is it to parent a girl child? What is it to just parent? And sometimes they're like, no, kids are supposed to be seen and not heard. It's like, but where does that come from? And then it's like, no, we don't ask that. I'm like, no, but I'm asking. It's like, because I was told I should never be. So, but who taught them that? And then it goes back to the more quiet and fragile you were in the space of the war or genocide, the stronger you were, the quicker you'll be taken to go work on the mines or on the railroads, and then you're divided from the family, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So the more fragile you were as a child and not heard, you might be like, okay, we don't know where the kids are, or they're too quiet, maybe they're sick and frail. Then it's a plus for a parent, because at least I know where my child is so I can see them, but they have to fake being okay and strong, because then I would lose them. So all of this goes back to that, but only if you ask these questions. So these are the things that I'm trying to help them understand, to break some of these curses, because that's the kind of the word we use. To like, okay, but you're safe now. We have now spaces which I'm trying to create through OGF, where we're like, that was because of that. But now we're in a better space, and we could look into what is a safe space, conversations like this, having stress fidget objects that you can have, sitting in a corner and just relaxing or just lying flat on the ground. All of this is programs we're starting to think of creating in some spaces. It's very uncomfortable, but over and over and over, I get people like, I didn't realize that is what my parents had gone through, and that's what I'm making my kids go through. Thank you. Or now I know how to not speak to my child, specifically the boy child, especially because I speak a lot with the fathers. And so every time they see me, they're like, oh yeah, the trauma girl that makes everybody cry, literally, which is a compliment. People don't cry, so I feel good. It sounds horrible. So to that element, we're starting to open the wound so that people can start to heal, and then break it down based on all that they had to go through, but it's gently going through. That's why I can only speak of really the emotional space of the Vaero people versus, any other tribe, because we have victims of war as well with the other tribes, but specifically to the two, could be a little bit different with the Nama people too. So yeah, we only focus on genocide, but we fully understand that it was eras of trauma. Sorry, that was long-winded. Was that good to your response? It was colonized by, is it British? Yeah, or England. And then South Africa. So it was like everybody is apart, and then they were dealing with so much in their pocket with themselves, and anybody else that wasn't part of it, it was like, we don't even wanna, there's no time in terms of integration, right? And so people are still trying to figure systems out in whatever capacity, be it economics, be it healing, be it finance, be it whatever. And so integration is only starting now to come to light with other countries. Like, for example, I know of Togo and Cameroon, that there was some Hereros and Amas that were shipped off there in that time, and that Tanzania was also part of German whatnot. It's like, oh, okay, so now, like, see what's happening there, what are they doing apart from filming and all of that. So only now are we also starting to have access to information and narratives that are from oral history becoming on paper and visual. And because of the film spaces, really, I have to say, because we always grew up with oral history, and because of the film spaces, we're starting to see like, it was just not the Holocaust. Oh, for example, the Holocaust. Oh, but it also happened to us. We don't know what to call it, but it wasn't. We can't say, So because of what we're starting to see, people are starting to have terms and names for the experiences that they were told about, what had happened for that space. And slowly you're getting to start to see organizations. And only when we have organizations like Medical, like you guys have other partner organizations that would have people that have been doing something like in Guatemala, like, oh, okay, where I would otherwise never hear it. In terms of the country itself, it's been so politicalized that genocide is like
a hot yet not hot topic, because it's hot for the victims or the survivors, but it's also being overshadowed by politics so that it fits the narrative that the politicians want to state it as, so for more benefit for the politicians versus the survivors. So again, there's a lot of oppression in terms of that. And if there's oppression in terms of that, like for example, you have the Ministry of Health, where you have social workers and psychologists that are working with government, and they get to meet other people from other countries in parliament, working on issues of trauma or suicide or whatnot. Yet there's no awakening about like, let's look at group in terms of war of mass violence, because if you do dare to speak out, you might lose your job. So rather than it becomes a me versus them, it's rather I survive. It's still conditioning. And so anybody that's speaking up, it's literally like liberal and you're like under scrutiny, like myself even. But it's not my cause, it's for the future generations, because it was somebody before me. You need people like me in medical to just be the change. And it's right now, when coming here and meeting your partners that work in these spaces helps me go back and help because of what I'm exposed to. And that's why it's not just about money. Like everybody's like, give us the money. Is Germany giving us the money? Economic people, yes, but for any other sciences, maybe not, right? So this is like what is happening in other spaces. What can we create? We went to see an exhibition on the Tanzanian art and how they are sharing narratives, and the space is so safe and so African. And so we could create something like that in Namibia, but you need the exposure. Because if you're just in your little island, you won't grow. So exposures like this really help to take back narratives. And every time and she's been seeing, I'm taking pictures of almost anything, like, this could look good in a shared context. Because like it's small things like that that speaks to the soul, that speaks to like meaning of dignity, because it's about recovering dignity at the end of the day. So we're only now starting to have conversations, and it's still very hard because we're still all traumatized, and healing, or rather. I hope that answers. So it's literally the beginning stages of the conversations, and if not me